So what do you do, Spencer, when someone's mistyped and you know they have a vested interest, they have an identity of being a particular type? Now, a lot of times, by the way, people have an identity because they've done a lot of looking. And once they say, oh, I'm a 4, I've been sad a lot of my life. I feel sad immediately. I'm always sad. But they're actually not a 4. Mm-hmm. It's like cruel to them to just say you're not a 4, because that's like negating the part of that individual that's had their heart broken. So you have to weave into it. And I know that in some cases, it's taken a couple years for people in coaching to realize that they're actually the 6 or the 9, 6 in particular. But the way I help them find it is I'll say, this is more of the defense strategy of the 6 than it is the 4. Now, they don't know that because they haven't talked to thousands of people or hundreds of people. They just think they're sad and anxious, but it doesn't help them working with envy. 6s can be quite envious too, by the way, but in a different way. So how do you work with it and not just say, sorry, wrong, you're not this type. Get with the program. You're not going to create the kind of change you want until you get your type. That is true, but it does not work to assert that for anyone, because once it becomes our identity, it's a part of us, and it needs to be treated with respect.
Absolutely. First off, I make sure to validate that any number can do anything. We get very behavior focused when we're typing ourselves. My mom was just saying, and this is what I hear a lot, like, oh, I'm sad or I'm dramatic, so it must be 4. And I'll giggle to myself. I have 4 in my Tritype. I get where you're coming from, but anyone can be sad. Anyone can be dramatic. So you can actually honor their experience. They'd be like, oh yeah, totally. How human of you to have that experience, because that's what humans experience. What's the why behind that? And if there's, because it depends why they're attached to it. Are they really attached to the identity of a number? Then I honor what they're attached to. Oh, I'm artistic and I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I honor it and I validate it. And I'm also like, what way are you artistic? Blah, 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 blah. And I can be like, oh, that's also something that can be this number because that number can be 2. Really? Blah, 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 blah. And so you kind of make it like, hey, you don't have to lose this quality that you're so attached to. We can just, like, I can call this a toaster if you want, but like, we can just recognize that it has certain things in common. You plug it in just like a toaster, blah, blah, blah. The moment we recognize it as a phone, we can use it properly. So understanding the why gets empowered that way. Sometimes, though, people are not necessarily attached to a number, but they're resistant to a number. They don't want to be associated with a certain number because of some label they've attached to it. The most common one I run into is 6. People don't want to, they think of like Chucky from Rugrats. Like all 6s just cower in a corner and they can't handle things. And they this and that. And I'm like, no, like it just means you're motivated by fear. You use fear to make decisions. You try to avoid negative outcomes. You're also very loyal, by the way. You tend to have a very playful and maybe kind of a little bit of a dark sense of humor. Ha ha ha. And so I throw in all these other things that are positive because for some reason, certain numbers, like I'm always breaking the mold of what people think 8s are. I'm supposed to be a you-know-what buster. Just by, because I'm an 8. I'm supposed to be a bull in a china shop who just doesn't know how he throws his energy around. I'm baby Huey. I don't know my own strength. I don't know my own intensity. I just dominate this, that, and the other thing. And so I've actually been interviewed when I was like a baby therapist and I wasn't private practice yet. And they actually used Enneagram and I saw their face shift when I mentioned I was an 8. I saw their eyes go, oh, you're going to talk over us in our collaborating sessions, and you're going to insert your opinion. I could just feel it. Now, maybe I'm projecting all over them. It's totally possible. But I also didn't get hired, and I saw the shift the moment I mentioned I was an 8. They were all about it up until I mentioned that point. So people either attach to the qualities that they really, really, really feel good about themselves. Who wants to lose that? You don't have to. Other numbers can do that. Or you have this negative opinion of some number that's, first off, probably a huge exaggeration and also not fully accurate. There's all these other qualities that actually make it this and this and this. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, I am this and I am that. Well, it's like, yeah. And it's all good. Not to mention with 6, there's phobic and counterphobic. And just, there's so much more to it. So I really just try to connect on a human level and just try to figure out where the connection, resistance, or over bonding is coming from. I normalize it. I make it feel better, is my attempt at least. Because in my head, I just want to be like, no, just listen to me, you're this. But that's not very helpful. And I use the attachment they have to either resist or go with also, by the way, as a tool in therapy, because now I'm like, ooh, you really need to connect to this, or you really need to resist this. That's info for me too, by the way. We can use that to better help understand your motivations and defense mechanisms that you use and so forth and so on. So that's
great. And I like that description. I especially like the way you're looking at how to help people see these variables. And one of the most important things with these identifications is these stereotypes. Now, there is a stereotype for each Enneagram type, and then there are 2 countertypes. That's also an incomplete dissemination of Naranjo's work. He just happened to, at a conference, just list 1 countertype. But when I raised the issue of countertypes in 1996, because they'd shown up in my research, he thought about it. He said, oh, yes, because he saw them as archetypes. And I said, well, I'm noticing that there's this stereotype, but then 2 of the instincts are not okay with the overt way in which we define a particular type. And then he said, yeah, so there would be 1 stereotype and 2 countertypes. And I think there's still a stacking order, and I've come up with that. I feel like, wow, I've done all this research with the instincts and with the types since 1994 and learned more. And gee, if you don't understand this, you're not going to understand that. If you make it all this, then you won't know that. So I've got Tritype, I've got lexicon, I've got the instincts, I've got the types, and then I've got the errors in the dissemination of the Enneagram. But having said that, if we don't understand that, we're missing really important opportunities to self-assess. So helping people understand that that's an identification, which is critical and it doesn't go away. But let's also look at the difference between your identification and your defense strategy itself. And I can't say it enough times. Thank you.